She thought everyone would laugh at her little jab, that I'd stand there like a quiet accessory while her business partner took shots at me in front of a packed room. They all thought I was harmless, just the husband in the backdrop. But that night, when she smirked instead of defending me, something inside me snapped so quietly no one even noticed, and by Monday, none of them saw the hit coming. Before I start, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. It helps more than you know that I'd never enjoyed these office parties, but my wife, Hannah, insisted this one mattered. Image, she said, pinning her hair in place like she was armoring up. It would look good if you came. So I went, pressed suit, polished shoes, and the patience of a man who'd learned to keep the peace. The ballroom they rented looked like a budget version of luxury. Two bright chandeliers, champagne that tasted like apple soda, and a crowd of lawyers pretending they weren't terrified of next year's performance reviews. I stepped inside and instantly saw her, Hannah, standing too close to her junior partner, Jordan Willis. Perfect teeth, perfect tan, perfectly smug. The type of guy who introduces himself with his full name so you don't miss the pedigree behind it. They were laughing hard. I didn't know what the joke was yet, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't like it to weave through the crowd, offering polite nods to people who barely registered my presence. For years, Hannah had introduced me with the same dismissive line. He runs a small business. Technically true. My company had over 60 employees and handled major regional contracts. But small fit better with the version of herself she liked to parade around. When she finally spotted me approaching, a flicker crossed her face. Annoyance first, maybe guilt second. Gone so fast I wondered if I imagined it. Everyone, this is my husband, she announced. Jordan flashed a grin that stopped inches short of sincerity. Your wife talks about you all the time, he said, shaking my hand. Funny. I answered, tightening my grip. She barely mentions you. His smile cracked for a heartbeat. The night slogged forward. Speeches, fake applause, thin laughter. Hannah drifted from group to group, dazzling in ways she rarely tried to dazzle at home. I sipped a beer and let the noise wash over me, feeling like a guest in a life I was supposed to share. Then came the toasts. The managing partner started with predictable praise. A few associates tossed in inside jokes only half the room understood. And then Jordan stood up, his cheeks already pink from whatever he'd been pouring down his throat. I want to toast the associates, he said, raising his glass. The ones who actually build success from scratch. He glanced at Hannah. Too long, too familiar. And here's to the clueless husbands, he added loudly. The ones paying the bills while we take their wives to the top. The room broke into laughter, some hesitant, some delighted, some too drunk to know what was happening. Every sound hit me like a slap. I didn't look at Jordan. I looked at her. At Hannah. She wasn't laughing. But she smiled. That diplomatic, don't make this awkward smile she saved for clients she hated. She didn't defend me. Not a word did I put my drink down, slowly, deliberately, on a nearby table. The glass made a sharp sound that cut through a small pocket of chatter. I waited, just a second, just long enough for her to make eye contact, to show even a sliver of solidarity. She looked away. I turned and walked out. No dramatics. No scene. Just air colder and cleaner than the room I left behind. Outside, my phone buzzed. Where did you go? I didn't answer. I sat in my car, silent, letting the engine hum while pieces of the past few months clicked into place. The late nights, the sudden, urgent weekends, the way she angled her phone away whenever I walked by. And that smile. God, that smile that be why the time I pulled into our driveway. The night felt heavier, clearer, sharper. I wasn't the harmless husband anymore. Something inside me had shifted, and whatever came next, I knew it wouldn't be what anyone expected. I woke the next morning with a clarity I hadn't felt in years, the kind that doesn't rise slowly but hits all at once. Cold, steady, undeniable. Hannah was still asleep, wrapped in the same quiet indifference she'd worn for months. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and stared for a long moment at the dark screen reflecting a man I suddenly recognized again. Then my eyes drifted to her tablet charging on the counter. She'd never bothered setting a passcode. Why would she? I was the background character in her story, the one she assumed would never question a thing. I picked it up, swiped, and the messages bloomed instantly. 8 months worth between her and Jordan. It started professional, then turned personal, then blurred into something neither of them bothered to hide. Nothing outright explicit, but the tone, the familiarity, the little jokes, the subtle digs at me, painted a picture clearer than any confession. He doesn't notice when I work late anymore, she'd written. Maybe that's for the best. And his reply, you love having somewhere to escape. I captured screenshot after screenshot, my pulse steady, movements precise. When I heard her footsteps upstairs, I closed the tablet and put it back exactly where it was. She came down already dressed, hair perfect, that slick professional mask back in place. I have to go in for a few hours, she said, grabbing her purse. Big case prep. I watched her slip into her coat. On a Saturday, I said evenly. She hesitated. Yes, that's how it works. She asked if I'd be home. I told her yes. She didn't see the look I gave as the door shut behind her. When she pulled out of the driveway, I counted to 60, unlocked our family phone plan, and checked her location. She wasn't heading to the office. She was heading to Jordan's neighborhood. Perfect. Cold anger sharpened into direction. First call, Richard Caldwell, my longtime attorney. I need the best divorce lawyer you know, I said. Today. He didn't ask for details, only promised a name. Second call, my accountant. Third, my operations manager, Noah, the most reliable man I've ever hired. I need every invoice, every hour billed, every contract we've had with Willis and Grant for the past 4 years, I told him. Quietly. He paused. Boss, that's the firm your wife. I know, I said. You have until tomorrow night. By early afternoon, the numbers were in my hands, and they told a story no one at Hannah's firm seemed to understand. My company represented nearly 40% of their annual revenue. Not a client, a lifeline. When she returned home around 3, looking relaxed and satisfied, I was on the couch reviewing documents. Productive day? I asked without emotion. She blinked, sensing something off. Yes. Busy. Good, I said, closing my laptop. I've got meetings Monday. With who? Clients. Her eyes narrowed, but she let it go. Sunday was taut, silent tension. I spent the day at my laptop, letting her watch me work without understanding what she was seeing. By evening, she finally cracked. Are you upset about Friday? She asked, hovering in the doorway. About Jordan's toast? I didn't look up. Was it funny? She hesitated. That told me everything. He'd been drinking, she offered weakly. It was just a joke. And you smiled, I said quietly. You didn't defend me. You just let it happen. I closed my laptop. We'll talk another time. She left the room. I heard her voice later, low, frantic, on the phone. Maybe Jordan. Maybe someone else. It no longer mattered. Monday morning, I put on my best suit and drove straight to Willis and Grant. Not to see Hannah. No, my meeting was with the real decision makers, the senior partners. They were already waiting when I walked into the conference room. I looked them in the eyes and said, we need to discuss your junior partner and what happens to this firm if my company takes its business elsewhere. The room went still as a tomb. I introduced myself properly. Their reaction said everything. I laid out the facts, the toast, the humiliation, Hannah's silence. Then the numbers, the total they'd earned from my contracts. And finally, the condition, Jordan is terminated before lunch, I said calmly. Not reprimanded. Not warned. Fired. If he's still here at 10:01. I close the folder. I pull everything. Their faces drained of color. They understood leverage. I left the building at 7:58 a.m. My phone rang at 8:03. He's being removed now, one of the partners said. He'll be out by 9. I hung up without gloating. I didn't need to. At 9:15, Hannah called my phone nonstop. Then came the texts. What did you do? Jordan just got fired. People are staring at me. Please answer. I didn't. At 10:30, she showed up at my office. I had the receptionist tell her I wasn't available. She said she'd wait. I left through the back door. At noon, the divorce attorney called. Papers would be ready by tomorrow. Where do you want them served? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Her office, I said. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. And just like that, the fuse kept burning. Tuesday arrived with an eerie stillness, the kind that settles right before a storm breaks. And this storm had been building for months. I woke in the hotel room I'd checked into the night before, a quiet, neutral space free of Hannah's perfume, her clipped tones, her shadow. For the first time in a long time, I felt something like relief. By the time I reached my office, my entire team was already moving through the day like normal, unaware that by 2 o'clock my marriage would collapse in front of half a law firm. At 1:30, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. This is Willis and Grant, a woman said stiffly. Mr. Wright would like to discuss your contracts. Transfer me directly, I said. He's in a meeting, she replied. Then have him call me when he's out. I don't negotiate seven-figure contracts through intermediaries. 5 minutes later, Wright called back personally, his voice tight. We're hoping to stabilize the situation, he said. Jordan is gone, but the fallout is affecting multiple people. That's your issue, I told him. My dealings with your firm are separate from my wife's choices. He hesitated before admitting Hannah had been placed on administrative leave. I didn't comment. If his firm needed to clean house, that was their business. I was done covering for anyone. My phone buzzed repeatedly, calls, texts, voicemails. All from Hannah. Around 1:45, she wrote, Please don't do this. We can fix everything. Just give me a chance to explain. I didn't reply. At exactly 2 p.m., while I sat in a quiet office reviewing a logistics proposal, the process server walked into Willis and Grant, asked for her by name, and handed her the neatly sealed envelope. At 2:15, my phone exploded with missed calls. At 3 o'clock, when I finally powered the phone back on, I had 32 texts, 20-plus calls, and more voicemails than I cared to count. None of them mattered. My attorney confirmed the papers were served. She took it hard, she said. Lots of yelling, crying. Half the office saw. Good, I replied. She never minded an audience when the humiliation was mine. I left work early, intending to go back to the hotel, unwind, maybe order something simple for dinner. I didn't even make it to the elevator before I heard it. Her voice. I've been waiting for 2 hours. I turned. Hannah sat in the lobby chair, makeup smudged, eyes swollen, that polished mask nowhere in sight. She stood as I approached, anger and fear tangled on her face. We need to talk, she said. No, I answered, we don't. 5 minutes, she begged. Just 5. The clerk was eyeing us, and I didn't want a scene. Not here. Outside, I said. We stepped into the fading daylight behind the hotel. Traffic buzzed on the road nearby. She started talking immediately, desperate and breathless. This is insane. You're ending 8 years over one stupid night. Over a joke. I stared at her. The same woman who'd watched a room laugh at me and smiled like she was above it all. It's not one night, I said evenly. It's the messages, the lies, the way you talk about me to your colleagues. The way you acted like being married to me was something to hide. She shook her head, crying. It wasn't physical with Jordan. It was emotional support. I laughed once, cold and sharp. Emotional support? You were using another man to fill the space you pushed me out of. And I'm supposed to pretend that's nothing. We can fix this, she pleaded. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. I don't want to fix it, I replied quietly. I want out. That shattered what little composure she had left. I'll fight you, she snapped. I'll fight the prenup. I'll take you to court. I stepped closer, close enough for her to see I wasn't bluffing. Spend every dollar you saved if you want. Hire whoever you can afford now. The prenup is airtight. Every major asset is documented as mine. You'll walk away with exactly what you brought in. Her face drained, turning almost gray in the dimming light. I added, maybe Jordan will help you. Oh, wait. He's unemployed now, isn't he? She flinched like I'd struck her. You destroyed him. He destroyed himself, I said calmly. I just provided the lighting so everyone could see it. She wiped her face with a shaking hand. This isn't over, she whispered. You're right, I said. It's not. But the ending won't be the one you think. I walked back toward the hotel, left her standing alone in the parking lot, and didn't look back. That night, I ordered room service, reviewed some contracts, and let the silence settle around me like armor. No shouting, no guilt, no manipulation, just peace, cold, clear, earned. When her final text came, you'll regret this. I didn't even hesitate. I deleted it. Because for the first time in years, I finally knew I wouldn't. 3 weeks later, life felt strangely steady, like a house that had finally stopped creaking after years of hidden pressure. I'd moved into a furnished apartment closer to the office, and the silence there wasn't heavy anymore. It was freedom, clean and simple. The divorce was progressing exactly as my attorney predicted. Hannah had hired a lawyer who tried barking about equitable distribution, but the prenup shut every door they attempted to pry open. She'd left Willis and Grant quietly. No dramatic exit, just a resignation letter. In 2 weeks, she didn't bother working. Word got around she'd taken a position at a smaller firm across town. A noticeable step down. As for Jordan, he was still hunting for a new job. Hard to get hired when the legal community whispers the same story about you at every networking event. I was in my office late one Thursday when Noah poked his head in. Mr. Wright is here. Says he doesn't have an appointment, but hopes you've got a minute. That surprised me. Send him in, I said. Wright walked in looking years older, fatigue heavy on his shoulders. He sat down without his usual small talk. I wanted to update you personally, he began. We've made some structural changes at the firm. New oversight. New conduct standards. I nodded. About time. He didn't argue. And I wanted to say what happened at that party was inexcusable. You deserved better. For a moment, he wasn't a polished senior partner, just a man admitting his house had been rotting from the inside. Are we going to lose your business? He asked finally. I'd met with 2 other firms, both solid. But business wasn't just numbers. It was history, consistency, understanding how someone works. Your firm does good work, I said simply. Always has. The culture was broken. If it's fixed, we'll continue. Relief washed over his face. Thank you, he said, deeply sincere. After he left, I sat for a moment longer, feeling something settle inside me. Leverage was a strange thing. You don't realize you have it until someone forces you to use it. The next day, I signed the lease on a new house. 3 bedrooms, big windows, quiet neighborhood. Nothing flashy, just mine. A real fresh start. A few weeks later, I ran into Preston Shaw at a business event. He approached me directly. Culture's changed since the restructuring, he said. For the better. Glad to hear it, I replied. Your contracts are up next month. Hoping we'll keep working together. Send the terms, I said. I'll look. He nodded and moved on. On my way out, across the room, I saw her, Hannah, standing with a cluster of unfamiliar attorneys. She looked tired, smaller somehow. When our eyes met, something flickered across her face. Maybe regret, maybe disbelief that she no longer had any hold on me. I nodded politely, the same way you acknowledge a neighbor you barely remember from a childhood street, and walked past without breaking stride. No anger, no satisfaction, just nothing. And that nothingness felt like the final release of a weight I'd carried far too long. I drove home to my new house, unlocked the door, and stepped into a space that was mine in every way that mattered. I made dinner, something simple, stood at the counter, and realized how peaceful the quiet had become. No buzzing phone demanding attention, no empty apologies, no cold glances from across a room. Just life, my life. Built by me, owned by me, protected by me. 6 months earlier, I'd been the punchline to someone else's joke. Now, I was standing in a home I chose, with a business thriving and a future nobody could handcuff again. And I finally understood something I wish I'd learned years before. Respect isn't granted, it's enforced. And when someone shows you they don't respect you, you don't convince them otherwise, you leave. And you rebuild with people who already know your worth. If you've stayed with me through this journey, do me one favor: subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. It helps more than you can imagine, and I'd be glad to see you in the next story.